We are ready for our next keynote session. And from one interesting aspect of technology, we are jumping into another one. Of course, generative artificial intelligence and its adoption. There are many caveats we know, and there are many risks that can't be ignored. Diving to all those aspects in detail and highlighting the importance of responsible AI adoption. Speaking to us is the principal architect and master inventor with Kyndryl India, Shri Manish Gupta. Welcome, sir. He's a distinguished principal architect and master inventor at Kyndryl India, who brings more than 2 decades of experience. So, listen. Sure. Has that been passed on? We have a presentation that has been passed on to the console. Yes? How will I move it? I'll get you a slide. Can we also have a slide change around stage, please? Yes.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a good time. Great talks earlier. Ikigai, work-life balance, and happiness and longevity, and then followed by the talk by Alex on investments and fintech. This talk of mine will be on generative AI. Not so much on generative AI techniques, but really on the risks that are involved and how you want to understand those risks. So let's start with some history first. 2017, we had the seminal paper from Google called Attention is All You Need. That really set the architecture for the neural networks that are needed, how attention is used to actually come up with an architecture that ChatGPT, when it first came out, uses. ChatGPT came out after 5 years after this paper was published. So 5 years went by until we saw ChatGPT came out, and that's what changed the entire spectrum. It actually turned the world of AI upside down. And we have generative AI. I'm sure everybody over here is using generative AI, ChatGPT, or some other tool. We are going to talk about the risks, and this is a topic which is actually, I have been, involved ever since ChatGPT came out. I have been building applications in this space, especially for clients, including internal clients. I'm from Kyndryl, so I build for internal productivity as well as for clients, including edtech space, education space, and financial services space. So clearly, every business, every individual will be not left behind by this technology, in my opinion. And be it creative industries or research and medicine. In fact, we all know that, right? AlphaFold, right? This was a technology for which the Nobel Prize for Chemistry was given. And the key thing that has turned it upside down, as I said, is the democratization of AI. You and I and anybody else can quickly do image analysis, can generate new content, can generate a video, right? We can generate video today so easily than 5 years back or even 3 years back. So that is really the power, and you can see that from ChatGPT's 300 million users per week, active users, right? That's phenomenal. So democratization, I think, has enabled all of us with powerful tools, but there is this aspect, which is the surface area, right? If something goes wrong, many people will get affected. So many verticals, industry verticals, and this is just a minuscule that I'm showing on the slide, right, are using this today. And in fact, I'm involved with clients myself, at least 2, and responding to RFPs in this space. The key pattern that these things that are leveraging behind is basically being able to do semantic search, right? You have a query, you have your private database, and you want to query that private database of PDFs, unstructured documentation, maybe SQL data also, structured data as well. So that's basically the pattern. But now, as we will see, going forward, there will be a lot of agents coming up which can, given a goal, they can work on your behalf semi-autonomously or maybe autonomously as well. So with this kind of power, there comes a lot of risks as well. And there was a study done by Salesforce, and they asked workforce or people working in industries, what they think about it, right? So clearly, as there's nothing to guess about it, they were talking about security risks, they were talking about inaccuracies, they were talking about biasness of these models or AI models that are behind all of this, right? So clearly, these are important things. Anytime you go and talk to a client today, yes, we are trying to solve their business problem, trying to understand what their business problem is, but ultimately they come down to, okay, how's my data safe, is my data exposed? Am I going to leak data? How is it going to affect my regulatory control that I need to have? So we'll talk about this. So this comes to the central topic of this particular talk, which is risks. So I'm going to touch on all of these 5 categories: ethical, security, then you have economic and social, and then technical and systemic, and finally governance. So let's go through these one by one. So deepfake, right? This is something that we have all seen. I'm sure. I mean, I have seen it, and I get really fooled by this. I forward a message, and somebody writes back to me saying, "Hey, this is all fake." So this is a big risk source. And you can swap faces in videos. You can change voices. You can alter documents in subtle ways that you will not be able to know whether it's really a fake one or the real one. And the problem or the risk is basically we all start losing trust in what we are seeing. So erosion of trust. Even if we get something which is authentic, we may not be able to rely on it. Then we have misinformation, right? And the other thing we have also encountered in our elections is basically misuse of this, right? And in all parts of the world, right? This can affect elections. This can actually be used in a market, right? Some CEO being a deep fake of a CEO talking about something, and that causes crash of that CEO's company's valuation. So this is a big source of risk, and there are tools available, open source also, to try to tame it. Another thing which is a traditional one, right? This has been there even before generative AI, bias, fairness, and discrimination, right? So what is happening with generative AI really is that it is increasing the surface area, right? I said, like, you and I now have the power to create applications, create automation that could not have been possible before. But now what's happening is that with this big surface area, I can propagate increased bias. So previously, there was a small surface area, now big surface area. And stereotype reinforcement and propagation. In fact, if you see this, look at the 2 prompts, right? You can see how a generative AI tool is actually resulting in bias, right? Look at the first one is a portrait of a personal financial advisor, and see there is only one person who is a woman, and the rest are all male. So that's basically even, I mean, big problem, and there needs to be ways of how you want to train your models, as well as you have to put guardrails around those. So when responses come, can you really control this, detect it at least? So this is another source, a traditional source. Plagiarism and copyright infringement. So another one, I generate images. In fact, some of the images that you see on my slide have been generated using generative AI, not OpenAI, but another tool. I forget the name now. So these tools are supposed to be susceptible to generating copyrighted material. without attribution, so they don't give the name of the original source. Also, when they were trained, they never got the permission from the original author. So these are problems, and in fact, OpenAI is actually facing a lot of lawsuits which are not yet closed. OpenAI, the pioneer in this space. So you can see the names of those different lawsuits that are still going on. So this is another source of, so when we are creating an application for generative AI, be it for say Gen Online, maybe creating one, or any other company, they have to be really wary about these aspects, that the content that they are generating is not really copyrighted. So this is one thing that whenever you are trying to develop an application, even before generative AI, one has to take care before you actually go to production, right? You take your application to production, you need to take care of cybersecurity. So that doesn't go away at all, but it gets exacerbated because of generative AI. So you have hackers trying to manipulate the AI, be it during training, and even when you send a prompt, right? There can be a man-in-the-middle attack, and your prompt gets injected subtly with something else, and the output of that is probably undesirable to the company, and the company's brand may go down, right? So imagine something coming back that is completely undesirable, and the company may be a very well-established one with a big brand, but then if that kind of undesirable output comes, it can cause the brand to go down. So this is a big risk, and leakage of sensitive information. So some of the models may be trained without keeping in mind that you are using personal information, right? Names of the people, their addresses, credit card, for that matter. I mean, so such things have to be taken into account, and compliance with laws have to be there. So if your data, so I'm working with a client now, which is a Canadian client and a police department, and they are very wary of actually using cloud for their training. And they want to ask queries like, okay, I have a video. Can you tell me where the weapon was used, right? In which frame was the weapon used, or was it ever used at all? But then so they are talking about keeping the data only on their premise, or in their data center that they rely on. They don't want to send the data to a service where the data is not encrypted, right? So this is another aspect, and so whenever we're talking to a client, we have to look at what are their compliance laws, whether they are okay with sending the data to a API as a service, like generative, like OpenAI as a service, right? Where we just use it as a service. Harmful and undesirable content I already talked about. Spoiling the reputation and brand, I also talked about this. Imagine that so autonomous cars are already there, right? And there is an attack. Imagine that autonomous car really comes to a stop on a freeway, right, or a expressway. What can go wrong, we can all imagine. And criminals bypass biometric authentication. Now, this can happen to our UID AI, right? We have fingerprints, etc. We give our details to get a Aadhaar account, right? Now, imagine that with this kind of a technology, you can make subtle changes to the image, to the fingerprints in such a way that you can show yourself as a different person and then get an account in a clandestine manner. So these are big risks in this space to tackle. And in fact, if you see the two notes that I made, I think you may have come across this in newspapers where generative AI gave out a piece of content trying to tell, okay, you can commit a suicide, right? This is undesirable, and there must be ways in which you can stop this. So that is very key and a big risk and danger. Alignment risk. Now, this is something very close to my heart, because I think, so the risks that I have told you earlier, they are there, but this is a new kind of a risk, and I think it's a very dangerous one. O1 preview, O1 is a model, O1 preview is a model that generative AI released some time back. It is able to reason. It is able to reason, and it was given the task of trying to beat another automation called Stockfish, which is a automation that actually is a chess player. Automation, chess player. And what this O1 preview did, because the goal was to win, right? It changed the underlying state of the chessboard in such a way that it left no option for Stockfish to do anything. So it actually, broke in some way the rule, right? So this can happen no matter how many guardrails we put, how much we try to say, okay, you have to be good to, you can't break rules and things like that. There may be a loophole that this intelligence, when it becomes self adjusting and so on, it can do. So, imagine this kind of high intelligence going and playing around with your cyber security or your firewall rules, changing them, or finance. I just mentioned to you that autonomous trading algorithms, right, can exploit legal gray areas for profit. So this is another danger and risk. And then you have governance. So if AI systems influence policy or legal frameworks, how do we ensure accountability? So these are risks, and this one, I will talk a little bit more about this one. See, what you are seeing over here is a graph. GPT-2, GPT-4, GPT-4. I'm just taking this because there are many more, similar ones from Anthropic, another company like OpenAI. So what we are seeing over here is that on the y-axis, you have how the models are becoming more and more sophisticated. Initially you had only text-only modality. So, I write text in my prompt on my GPT, I get back text. Then, voice came in, and then, I can put in a video, I can take a picture, and then reason about it. So multimodality. Then reasoning capability came around. So you can see reasoning capability came around O1 time frame, O1 over there. And then hardness of problems. So the new models can actually solve PhD level problems today. So this is in a way surprising, but also frightening to me, because then it tells me, like, I have done a PhD from IISc, and what's the use of it? Am I does one have to do PhD? But so these are questions that come to one's mind, right? So if imagine that there is a company who can hire 3-4 agents which work at the level of PhD, and they can actually, whatever training that these agents have gone through, they can apply to newer problems, but at the same level of maturity that a PhD human being would be doing. So these are aspects. And then on the x-axis, you are seeing basically the scaling thing. You are seeing data initially, lots of data, lots of hyperparameters, and then your model started performing. And then as you move towards the right, you used preference feedback from human beings to say, okay, this option is better than this, to further improve the models. And now what we are seeing is that these models are able to generate many options, but they need lots of compute for it. They are able to generate these options, evaluate the tree of options here, and see which one is better, and then come out with an answer. So, and then what you are also seeing is self-improvement. So this is another aspect that was talked about when O3 was released, that they can self-improve. So again, so what are we seeing? We are seeing this trajectory. It's really the pace of innovation, ability to reason, ability to solve hard problems is really exponentially going up. And also, we are seeing that this same problem, alignment, right? Imagine that all these countries, different countries like United States, China, India, they have to have compute power for sure, NVIDIA, or an equivalent one from AMD or Grok. But there will be a race to have that, because, again, as I said, they can behave like PhD level researchers who can come out with new innovations. So there will be this race to master it, as well as use it for maybe military purposes. And then this alignment problem that I showed you earlier, where it broke it defeated the stockfish in unfair manner, that can happen here, right? Pressing a button which can cause devastation, destruction and so on. That is how I look at it. So we have to really, the risk over there is this alignment with what the overall goal is. You can't go and disrupt the peace of the world or destroy the world in any way. So these are aspects I wanted to highlight here. And economic and social risk, this was another one, and job displacement. So again, it comes back to the same thing, right? If I can have a agent that can work like a advanced software developer, and this is true. In fact, I create a lot of software using these new tools, and it can create from Tetris to any game that you can think of, the snake game, in one shot. So you type the prompt, you tell what you want, it'll create the entire working game. It can, but I don't create games. I create, front-end, back-end applications. So it can do that for me, which was not possible because I'm a back-end developer, not a front-end. But now I can develop front-end also. So really speaking, what we are seeing is that there will be jobs being displaced. At least, there are full signs for that, right? Support, a client came which wanted a support chatbot, so customer support chatbot, and these, so the first thing that I talked about, the democratization, that is being accelerated by these different vendors providing low-code, no-code tools. So in fact, many people in this audience are empowered to actually create these sophisticated tools because of the low-code, no-code capabilities that are now available. So you can just quickly compose them, and you can compose them by leveraging these reasoning tools. So I showed in the previous slide this DeepSeek, right? China came out with this DeepSeek just a week back or so. I have tried it. It's phenomenal, right? It has shaken the OpenAI world because they have been guarding this reasoning capability quite well. So they have a $200 per month subscription. This is ridiculous, right? I can't afford it. But DeepSeek is free. It's free as of now, and it is really performing better than O1, which is a reasoning model. And you should try it out if you haven't. So the job displacement is really a risk, and then accessibility divide. So different laws. The most advanced region is Europe, which has come out with this EU AI Act, but rest of the world is still not clear about what to bring out. So the companies really have to spend a lot of money trying to make sure that if they're coming up with a generative AI application, it is actually meeting all the regulatory control, and that's a lot of money spent there. Environment cost. So just one statistic. So ChatGPT, if today you use, it's like 10 times, approximately 5 to 6 or 10 times Google search. Okay, so you are every time you. So previously we could have said that okay, training a model, 400 billion parameters model is really the cost of the carbon footprint. But really no, with all of us making so many queries now the inference that is your actual querying is really more costly. So it's adding to your overall carbon footprint of IT. So hallucinations, this is not going away. This is if you see the left-hand side over here, I just did a small experiment for this talk. 4o is one of the latest models from OpenAI. If you type the query that I have just shown over here, how many words are there in strawberry, just notice that there is an additional R there. So there are 4, right? I've purposely put it like that. And it came out with the 3 R's. So that's how the pattern matching that these methods do. You can see, and maybe you can try it out now also. It will give you that. So hallucinations. So when you are developing applications, hallucinations can happen, and we have to address them in a graceful manner. The workaround for that is basically you have to when you get the content, you ask either the same model or another model, you know, uh, uh, is the answer consistent? So I'm exactly doing that. You see the second prompt that I've typed over there? I'm basically asking, is the answer you gave me earlier consistent, correct? Verify that, and then it gave the right answer. So accountability gaps. Now imagine that there is a robot that is trying to do an operation, or a diagnosis being done by this generative AI. It is good if you do this use this. It can really amaze you. But then if it gives a wrong answer, who's responsible here? In the same way, if a autonomous car suddenly, as I said, stops on the expressway, how do we account for this, right? So this is not clear because of non-uniformity of laws across the world, and the nature of this beast, which is generative AI. Governance and dependence. So I already talked about regulatory fragmentation, okay, in the world, fractured globe with conflicting laws. So this I have already talked. But the other one, the one on the right-hand side, is something that I am more worried about myself, right? As I said, in the last 2 years, I've been developing these applications. I'm really addicted to it, right? So using it for for whatever work I do. So I'm beginning to think, am I losing my ability? Will I be able to do my PhD again, right? Is my question. Will I be able to, without it, I mean, without this capability? So am I losing that critical thinking? This is another risk that we have to see how it affects all of us, but then I go back and argue, if when calculator came out, were people thinking like that? And we really went around that and did better things. So time has to tell that, okay? But I'm really worried about it, about myself on this especially. So there are, so mitigation strategies. I've talked about several things in the previous deck slides, and some of the mitigation strategies are listed here. There are tools for detecting fakes. How you do your training, you have to make sure that you're not using a biased data, so you have to properly bring the training data and use that. Guardrails have to be built around your application. So when you are going to production, you have to build the right guardrails, detect any data leakage, and report. So auditability is key. Detect any data leakage. Put all your cybersecurity controls properly to make sure that you are not, making either an internal user or an external user being able to come inside your application and get to the data. Do a lot of testing. Okay, so eval, as they call it, a lot of eval is required. So technical and security side of it, you have to do a lot of evaluation, testing. It boils down to testing, and so for job loss. So basically, again, this is something that I've put here, but it's something to be seen. But there is definitely, I mean, if you have been following this, agents will come into the workforce. Salesforce, especially, is very gung-ho about it, including Sam Altman and others in this area, including the Microsoft CEO. They are all talking about, that there will be agents coming into the workforce in this 2025. And so auditability, following, harmonized laws, they are all needed. So the infrastructure, the security and cybersecurity infrastructure to handle applications is really coming up now. And we are yet to see a completely robust set of laws for this. So coming back, this is a workshop or a summit for future, and actually generative AI is definitely our future. And but with that kind of power, there are a lot of risks. And will we be able to control AI for our benefit? That's the last question I just leave you with. And I open up for questions, any questions if you have. don't think, is there a question? Oh.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. So, as per my understanding, we need to have some kind of control over the AI, right? So, uh, uh, um, as what need to be the amount of control that we need to put forward for the AI? Thank you.
See, the control over here will be based off of, so when, imagine that you have written an application, right? And you have input coming to your model and output coming out of that model once you ingest some input. And then the model itself is being trained on some data that you have brought in, or it may be a pre-trained model, either case. So the control that you have to apply over here is, have you tested it well before you actually go into production, right? Number two, when inputs come to your model, are you doing validation of those inputs? Somebody's not trying to jailbreak. I have done jailbreaking of OpenAI, in fact, the last 2 years. So you can do jailbreak if you craft your prompt in a particular way, you can. And I showed you hallucination, that's another aspect. So when the input is coming in, you have to put in some guardrails there. When the output is coming out, you have to put some guardrails there. So you have to look at the output, validate the output if it is meaningful, not undesirable. If it is undesirable, maybe you have to quarantine it. Data leakage. So again, input-output guardrails you have to do. And in either case, you have to see if any personal data is being leaked out as a response primarily. So you have to do all of those checks. When you are querying your own data, using generative AI, your private documents, which are probably, then you have to ensure their quality is good, so that the output that is generated is dependent on what input you give, right? So they are not. So these are the kinds of controls that you have to bring in, and then this is a general application. But then the kind of thing that I was hinting at was this: when these models really become super intelligent, or even AGI as they say, right? Generally, you are the model is able to do better than humans on general information, right? There, if that is put in command of, say, critical systems, right, and working autonomously and semi-autonomously, we need to build in more controls than what I just talked about to make sure that they do not. For example, I just showed you that O1 really used wrong means to defeat this thing, the stockfish. So the same thing can happen at that level. So there will need to be more ways in which you can make sure that it is aligned with the global human objective of keeping, not lying, not using unfair means, not destroying any property, things like that. So yeah.
Sir,
Yes.
AI has become a reality. Whether we like it or not, it is affecting our day-to-day life. So what you have mentioned, all these things, no? Actually, it's as a caution we have to take it. Because we cannot avoid, so it will be there. So the caution, these things may happen, so you should be, I think, your topic was, the intention was like that only, isn't it?
But I gave you a real examples where generative AI told a human being that you go and die. And I think that person did commit suicide, okay? So one has to, it's not take it with a pinch of salt, with loads of salt, I will say. So even when you are talking, so there is one thing is personal interaction, my ChatGPT on my laptop or my, and the other thing is when we are building business applications, right? They are going to affect the brand that they represent, and they can't mess around or come up with faulty conjectures or outputs or undesirable outputs. So that really needs a lot of preparation before going and placing it in the world, all right? So it's not like just a caution. It is real. The risk from this is real. I've given you those two examples. Then deep fakes we experience every day, right? Deep fakes.
So what we can do in that case, the general public who is going to use AI, what control they are having in all these things?
So general public will have to rely on the vendor from which they are sourcing their AI to reduce the level of this deep fake or hallucinations, and they themselves have to be cautious, as you said, about not taking things literally immediately, and then they have to put that caution in their mind. Yeah.
We can say that think and act.
Think and act. Think and act.
Okay,
Perfect,
thank you.
yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a very basic and simple question. Yeah. One of the examples, it's not with generative AI, the basic AI or chatbot which you mentioned. So most of the chatbots, even if we want to use now, which may not be very well modeled or something, it has very limited questions, and you ask anything beyond that, it cannot answer. I mean, the ones which a common man will use generally, because the customer care is not reachable, and so this is what it is. I think that is just programmed exactly to answer only 5 questions, 5 answers are there, and only that much. Can't do anything beyond that. So, is there anything coming up to better up this?
So what you're talking about are traditional
Yeah, very
chatbots,
old ones.
which were basically intent-based. The way they were programmed was that you have an intent, and then you have if-then-else conditions
Correct.
below
And
this.
just gives only that much.
So it was bound by what you can handle. Else, the last else was basically go and escalate
Yes.
to whoever.
We don't have answer for
So
this
now what we are
question.
doing is like what is happening is, so you have the ability to put if then else's.
Yeah.
Then you also have the ability to put an else for the generative AI. So
Okay.
generative AI will respond. It may take care of 70% of your escalations. And if that also is not responding, so you will monitor the session between the end user and the generative AI. If you see a lot of deliberations happening, what you will end up doing is that automatically escalating to the human. But basic idea, and this was a client request, and this is how they want it. A
Yeah.
financial services client wants it for, so they exactly want it like this, as I've described.
But I
to you.
think making it cost effective, people are not going step forward and just using the basic one, I think, with very less cost. So it's not going up. And the other question, I think, as most of the students have this question, which you've answered, but still, you told about the calculator, so we didn't risk that. I mean, we didn't think about it, but coming same to generative AI, that's a big thing. If most of it is doing, what about the jobs for the future? And I do get the answers for that, like the concept should be very clear. And if you're sticking on to that, maybe you can still stay
You raise
on.
a very good point. I think our teachers will have to also tune themselves to generative AI and
Yeah, me
basically.
being a teacher, that's why I'm asking.
I mean,
you.
and,
So
and
this, yeah.
I mean, this is something of we have to think how, instead of the traditional curricula that we have,
Yeah.
how we can now, have a pace which is aligned with the pace at which this is growing. Because you
Yeah.
can't talk about traditional AI when there is a 1,000-kilometer distance between
Correct.
where you are here, and so this is this curricula has to be looked
So we
at.
make it as much, to the latest and make it fully practical. So far, we are doing as much possible, but I still, maybe there is little more gap we need to cover up, I think.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
I have a small question. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Can I? I am from UN. Just thought of seeing this summit going on. I just took a part of coming up here. Couple of months back, we thought of giving up a book for children to be prepared on Puri, Jagannath Puri. Now, the author said that I would be able to make the book within 7 days or 10 days. That was a book for the children. Book. The author said that through the help of AI, I'll be able to make the book within 7 to 10 days, which shocked me. Though I took up a chance and he delivered it. And then I started asking question out of it, which he was not able to do it. Then he thought that he would go through the entire book, what he has written, to read properly what it is supposed to be done. And then I said, is AI can provide you with how many avatars Krishna took in Mahabharata, which he tried doing it for a whole day in Google and AI, but he was not aware about it. So my question here is AI going to take away the traditional way of researching and shorten the time, keeping this loopholes or gaps, which ma'am also mentioned about it? And in that case, what should be the corrective action to be taken?
This is a big thing, right? I write programs, the whole program is out, it's working, and now when I have to make a change, either I continue to use generative AI, and if it fails to do it, when I actually delve into it, understanding the entire code is a pain. And it's very hard. I'm spending a lot of time trying to understand that code. So the same thing, you generate a full document, you don't know what has been generated, and when asked the question. So the only thing is that I think generative AI is also a learning experience. So if I don't know something and I have generated something unique based on my input or prompt that I gave, I must spend time trying to understand it, refine it, put in my own stuff that is over and above. That should we strive for. I think we should strive for, because that's what I said in the last thing, right? Are we becoming slaves to this, or can we continue? We must have this passion to really put something better than what it generated, right? So clearly you can't say that, you can't use generative AI, but when you use generative AI, if I take the same prompt, the teacher takes the same prompt and says, okay, I will generate it, and then compare it with what you have given, there should be some one or two rungs above that, because that's the baseline now, right? Everybody, if you write your own, you will have grammatical mistakes, it will not read well. In fact, if you read something coming from generative AI like GPT-4o, or it is sounding so good that you don't want to leave it, right? You don't want to leave it. So you have to be able to do better than that on top of what you have gotten. So that's all I'll say. There is no.
But that means that there is a scope.
There is a.
There is a scope to reduce the this stereotypical method of researching and the AI.
Yeah. You have to. It's a human generative AI interaction that we have to tune so well that we are better than the generative AI alone. Yeah. I'm really sorry.
I can see that there are a lot more questions, waiting to be asked, but in the interest of time, we are going to present a token of our appreciation to Sri Manish Gupta. And I'd like to have on stage Dr. K.R. Sridharan Murthy, advisor with Chancellor's Advisory Board, Jain University, to do the honors. And thank you once again, Sri Manish Gupta, for elucidating some apparent and not so apparent risks involved in generative AI adoption. Thank you. Thank you once again.